Victoria Hayes never believed in fate until the night she kissed a complete stranger at the Grand Metropolitan Charity Gala. Standing in her emerald green dress that hugged her curves in all the right places, she listened to her best friend Nina Park issue the most ridiculous challenge of her life. The next man who walks through those doors, you have to kiss him. No questions, no hesitation, just pure, spontaneous romance, Nina declared, her eyes sparkling with mischief over her champagne glass. Victoria's heart raced as she glanced toward the ornate entrance of the ballroom. The chandeliers cast a golden glow across the marble floors, and the string quartet played softly in the background. Everything about this evening screamed elegance and control, two things Victoria had built her entire career around. She was the woman with the plan, the consultant who never made rash decisions. "Nina, I can't just kiss a random stranger. That's insane," Victoria protested, though something deep inside her stirred with curiosity. Nina leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Victoria, you're 28 years old, and you've been playing it safe your entire life. When was the last time you did something completely unexpected? When did you last feel truly alive?" The words hit harder than Victoria wanted to admit. Her life had become a series of client meetings, strategic presentations, and carefully calculated career moves. Romance had taken a backseat to ambition, and spontaneity had become a foreign concept. Before she could respond, the ballroom doors opened. When time stopped moving. He walked in like he owned not just the room, but the entire world. Tall and commanding, he moved with the kind of confidence that came from years of making decisions that shaped industries. His tailored black suit fit him perfectly, emphasizing broad shoulders and a lean, powerful build. Dark hair was styled with casual precision, and his jawline could have been carved from granite. But it was his eyes that captured Victoria completely. Steel blue and intense, they swept across the room with the sharp focus of someone who missed nothing. There was intelligence there, and power, and something else that made her breath catch in her throat. "Go," whispered Nina, giving Victoria a gentle push. Victoria's legs moved before her brain could catch up. Each step across the polished floor felt like walking through water, slow and surreal. Her pulse thundered in her ears. What was she doing? This was madness. This was completely unlike her. Yet she couldn't stop. He was reaching for his phone when she approached, his expression one of focused distraction. The light from the screen highlighted the sharp angles of his face, making him look both beautiful and slightly dangerous. Victoria reached out and touched his arm. The fabric of his suit was expensive beneath her fingertips, smooth and perfectly tailored. He turned toward her, one eyebrow raising in silent question. Up close, he was even more striking. She could see flecks of silver in those steel blue eyes, could smell his cologne, something subtle and masculine that made her head spin. "Excuse me," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. And then, before courage could abandon her completely, Victoria rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his. Fire and ice colliding. The kiss ignited something primal inside her. His lips were firm and warm, tasting faintly of whiskey. For one eternal heartbeat, he remained perfectly still, neither pulling away nor responding. Victoria felt suspended in that moment, aware of every sensation, the heat of his body close to hers, the subtle tension in his frame, and the way time seemed to have stopped completely. Then something shifted. His lips moved against hers, just slightly, testing and exploring. His hand came up, hovering near the small of her back, but not quite touching, as if he was deciding whether to pull her closer or push her away. The kiss deepened for just a moment, becoming something more than a dare, something that felt electric and dangerous and absolutely perfect. When Victoria finally pulled back, her entire body trembled. His steel blue eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her feel completely exposed. There was surprise there, certainly, but also interest and something darker that sent shivers down her spine. "I'm sorry," Victoria whispered, her voice shaking. "It was a dare. My friend, she challenged me, and I shouldn't have." "What's your name?" His voice was deep and smooth, with just a hint of amusement underneath the authority. Victoria hesitated. Giving him her name would make this real, would transform it from a spontaneous moment into something with consequences. But those eyes demanded an answer. Victoria. Victoria Hayes. He studied her for a long moment, his gaze traveling from her face down to the delicate silver pendant hanging at her throat, then back up again. Something flickered across his expression, too quick to identify. "Interesting choice for a dare, Victoria Hayes," he said softly. Before she could respond, before she could ask his name or explain herself further, Victoria turned and fled back to Nina's side on legs that barely supported her weight. Her friend immediately enveloped her in congratulations, laughing and demanding details, but Victoria could barely hear her. All she could feel was the phantom heat of his lips on hers. All she could see was the way those steel blue eyes had looked at her, like he was memorizing every detail of her face. And when she glanced back across the ballroom, he was still standing there, watching her with an expression that promised this was far from over. Victoria touched the silver pendant at her throat, an emerald heirloom she always wore, and tried to calm her racing heart. She didn't know his name, didn't know anything about him, except the way he tasted and the way his almost touch had set her skin on fire. But somehow, in the deepest part of her soul, she knew this stranger had just changed her life forever. What Victoria didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have known as she tried to lose herself in champagne and conversation, was that Monday morning would bring a revelation that would shatter her carefully constructed professional world. The stranger wasn't just anyone. He was about to become her biggest challenge, her greatest temptation, and quite possibly her undoing. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that promised change. Victoria stood in front of her mirror, adjusting the collar of her navy blazer for the third time. She'd barely slept all weekend, her mind replaying that kiss over and over like a movie stuck on repeat. Nina had texted her approximately 17 times since Saturday, each message more excited than the last. But Victoria couldn't share her friend's enthusiasm. The kiss had awakened something inside her that felt both thrilling and terrifying. She'd spent 3 years building her reputation as the most focused professional marketing consultant at Preston & Associates. One spontaneous moment shouldn't shake her this badly. Yet it had. Victoria grabbed her leather portfolio and headed out, determined to bury herself in work. Today was important. Preston & Associates had landed their biggest client yet, Cole Enterprises, a multinational corporation known for innovative technology and ruthless business practices. The CEO had specifically requested their firm to rebrand his company's public image, and Victoria had been chosen to lead the project. This was her moment, her chance to prove she deserved a partnership. Nothing, not even the memory of steel blue eyes and a kiss that had scorched her soul, would distract her from this opportunity. The conference room revelation. The Preston & Associates conference room gleamed with polished wood and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. Victoria arrived early, setting up her presentation materials with meticulous care. Her hands trembled slightly as she arranged the folders, but she blamed it on caffeine and nerves. Her colleagues filtered in gradually. Thomas Preston, the senior partner, took his position at the head of the table. Jennifer Walsh from legal sat to his right, already reviewing contracts. Robert Chen, who'd been handling preliminary negotiations, gave Victoria an encouraging nod. "Remember, Victoria," Thomas said, his voice carrying the weight of expectation. "Sebastian Cole is notoriously difficult to impress. He's turned down 3 top firms before agreeing to meet with us. This presentation needs to be flawless." Victoria nodded, her confidence solidifying. She'd prepared for weeks. Every slide was perfect, every talking point rehearsed. She could do this. The door opened. Time fragmented into 1,000 painful pieces. He walked in with the same commanding presence she remembered from the gala, but now he wore a charcoal suit that somehow made him look even more powerful. His dark hair was styled perfectly, his expression cool and professional. Those steel blue eyes swept the room with calculated precision. and then they landed on her. Victoria watched recognition flash across his face, followed by something that looked dangerously close to amusement. Her stomach dropped. Her carefully prepared speech evaporated from her mind. The portfolio in her hands suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Mr. Cole, welcome." Thomas stood, extending his hand. "Thank you for choosing Preston & Associates. Allow me to introduce our team. This is Jennifer Walsh, our legal counsel, Robert Chen, who you've spoken with, and Victoria Hayes, who will be heading your rebranding project." Sebastian's gaze never left Victoria's face as he shook Thomas's hand. "Ms. Hayes and I have already met, actually, haven't we, Victoria?" The tension builds. Victoria's throat went dry. Every eye in the room turned toward her. She could feel the weight of their curiosity, their confusion. How did their lead consultant already know Sebastian Cole? "We ran into each other briefly," Victoria managed, her voice steadier than she felt, "at a charity event." "Briefly," Sebastian repeated, and there was definitely amusement in his tone now. That's one way to describe it. Thomas looked between them, clearly sensing undercurrents but not understanding them. "Well, wonderful. Existing rapport will only help the project. Victoria, why don't you begin your presentation?" Victoria moved to the front of the room on legs that felt disconnected from her body. She could feel Sebastian's eyes on her, tracking her every movement. When she finally forced herself to meet his gaze, she found him watching her with an intensity that made her skin burn. She clicked to the first slide. Her voice came out professional and clear, years of training overriding her panic. "Mr. Cole, Cole Enterprises has built an impressive reputation for innovation and results. However, recent market research indicates that your public image skews cold and unapproachable. Our goal is to humanize your brand without compromising its authority." "Humanize," Sebastian said softly, leaning back in his chair. "Interesting word choice. Tell me, Miss Hayes, do you think I need humanizing?" The question hung in the air, loaded with meaning only the two of them understood. Victoria's fingers tightened on her presentation remote. "I think your company would benefit from showing the vision behind the innovation. People connect with stories, with purpose. Right now, Cole Enterprises is respected but not loved. We want to change that." "And you think you can make people love something they currently only respect?" His eyes held hers. "That's quite a transformation." "It's what I do best, Mr. Cole. Transformation." Victoria arrived at Cole Enterprises at 7:45, refusing to give Sebastian the satisfaction of seeing her flustered by his demand for punctuality. The building rose 60 stories into the morning sky, all gleaming glass and steel that reflected the city like a mirror. Inside, the lobby was a masterpiece of modern design, with marble floors and a waterfall feature that created a sense of calm authority. She checked in at the security desk, received her temporary badge, and rode the private elevator to the top floor. Her reflection in the polished doors showed a woman in a crisp white blouse and black pencil skirt, her hair pulled back in a professional bun, minimal makeup highlighting her features. She looked confident and composed. Inside, she was a storm of nerves. The elevator doors opened directly into a reception area that screamed wealth and power. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. The furniture was all clean lines and expensive leather. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes and silver hair looked up from behind an elegant desk. "You must be Victoria Hayes. I'm Patricia Morgan, Mr. Cole's executive assistant. He's expecting you." Patricia smiled warmly. "Fair warning, he's been in his office since 6 this morning and has already gone through 2 pots of coffee. He's focused when he's working on something important." Victoria managed a smile. "Thank you for the heads up." Patricia led her down a hallway lined with abstract art, stopping at a set of double doors. She knocked once, then opened them without waiting for a response. "Ms. Hayes is here, Mr. Cole." "Send her in." Inside Sebastian's world. Sebastian's office was enormous, easily the size of Victoria's entire apartment. One wall was entirely glass, offering views that made her breath catch. His desk was a massive piece of dark wood that looked like it cost more than her car. Behind it, Sebastian stood with his back to the door, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid Mandarin. She caught phrases about manufacturing delays and quality control before he switched to English, his tone dropping to something cold and final. "I don't accept excuses, Chen. Fix it or I'll find someone who can. You have 48 hours. He ended the call and turned to face her. In the morning light streaming through the windows, Sebastian was even more striking than she remembered. The sunlight caught the silver threads in his dark hair, emphasized the sharp angles of his face. He'd removed his suit jacket, and his white dress shirt was rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms that were surprisingly muscular for a man who spent his days behind a desk. "You're early," he observed, checking his watch. "I like that. Shows respect for other people's time." "I believe in professionalism, Mr. Cole." "Sebastian," he corrected, moving around his desk toward her. "When it's just us, you call me Sebastian. We're going to be spending a lot of time together, Victoria. Formality will only get in the way." He was close now, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something subtle with notes of cedar and spice. Close enough that she had to tilt her head slightly to maintain eye contact. "About your text last night," Victoria began, her hand unconsciously moving to touch the pendant at her throat. "You said this was significant. I don't understand. It was my grandmother's, just a family piece." Sebastian's eyes followed her movement, fixing on the pendant with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "May I?" Before she could respond, he reached out and gently lifted the pendant, his fingers brushing against her collarbone. The touch was brief but electric, sending shivers across her skin. He examined the piece carefully, turning it to catch the light, his expression unreadable. "Where did your grandmother get this?" His voice had changed, becoming softer, almost reverent. "I don't know the full story. She always said it was given to her by someone important, someone she helped during the war. She never wanted to talk about it much." Sebastian released the pendant, but he didn't step back. "What was your grandmother's name?" "Catherine Hayes. She was a nurse during World War II, stationed in Europe. Why does this matter, Sebastian?" The impossible connection. Sebastian walked back to his desk and opened a drawer, pulling out a small leather box. He returned to Victoria and opened it, revealing a pendant almost identical to hers. Same intricate vine pattern, same small sapphire, just slightly different in the details of the metalwork. Victoria's eyes widened. "I don't understand. How do you have one?" "This belonged to my grandfather, William Cole. He was a soldier during the war, injured badly during a mission in France. According to family legend, a nurse saved his life, stayed with him through 3 days of bombing when they were trapped in a collapsed hospital. He made these pendants before he deployed, 2 of them, meant as gifts for his sister back home. He gave one to the nurse who saved his life, told her that if she ever needed anything, this pendant would guarantee the Cole family would help her." Victoria felt the world tilting beneath her feet. "You think my grandmother was that nurse?" "I don't think, I know." Sebastian pulled out his phone, scrolling through photos until he found what he was looking for. He held it out to her. The black and white photograph showed a young soldier in uniform standing next to a beautiful nurse in her white cap and dress. They were smiling at the camera, and even across the decades, Victoria could see the resemblance. The soldier had Sebastian's same strong jaw, his same intense eyes. The nurse had Victoria's delicate features, her same gentle smile. "That's them," Sebastian said quietly. "Your grandmother Catherine and my grandfather William." He talked about her until the day he died, always wondered what happened to the angel